A speedy investigation by Met detectives has seen 2 men sentenced to almost 6 years in prison between them for robbing mobile phones whilst riding e-bikes in central London. Kymani Wilson, 22, of Brent, was sentenced to 3 years and 2 months in prison, whilst Claude Parkinson, 25, of Islington, was handed a 2-year 8-month sentence for 4 counts of theft at Snaresbrook Crown Court on Monday the 11th of November. They were also sentenced to 1 count each of dangerous driving, whilst Mr. Parkinson was also convicted of 1 count of breaching a criminal behaviour order. Detectives found on Thursday the 23rd of May this year, between 2 and 3 o'clock, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Parkinson committed a series of robberies and thefts of mobile phones on e-bikes in the boroughs of Westminster, Kensington and Chelsea, followed by a National Police Air Service helicopter at the scene, as well as armed police vehicles. The suspects travelled from central London towards Islington, where they were found to have dropped off stolen items to associates in a pub on Caledonian Road, before entering a nearby estate to hide from the police. Armed officers located the estate and proactively stormed the property around 20 minutes later, where they arrested the 2 men and took them to custody. Officers gathered evidence from multiple victims and witnesses, which helped them build a case against the 2 men. Detective Chief Inspector Scott Ware from the Central West Robbery Squad Unit said, "We know mobile phone theft is a huge worry for people, and it is particularly frightening to have something snatched out your hands from someone on a bike. We've worked hard to build a case and gather evidence to convict these 2 offenders and get them put behind bars. We know what a significant impact this type of crime has on victims, so please rest assured cracking down on it and getting these villains off our street is a priority for us." A man living in Westminster has been jailed for multiple drug offences following a dedicated investigation by Met detectives who acted on concerns from local residents. This investigation comes as part of the Met's determination to tackle issues that matter most to London's communities, including drug dealing and associated antisocial behaviour and violence. Grant Locke, 44, of Villa Street in Charing Cross, pleaded guilty at Southwark Crown Court on Wednesday the 26th of June to 15 drug dealing related offences, including possession with intent to supply ketamine, MDMA, cocaine and GBL. In court, Mr. Locke was described by the judge as overseeing a sophisticated commercial enterprise. Mr. Locke was sentenced at the same court on Friday the 15th of November to 7.5 years in prison. Mr. Locke was first arrested after concerns were raised about drug dealing in the Charing Cross area. Local neighbourhood officers worked together with specialist officers to uncover the key drug dealing hubs. Officers arrested Mr. Locke at his home in Villa Street, where large quantities of drugs were found. In this first instance, Mr. Locke tried to claim that the GBL found, amongst numerous other drugs, was a cleaning product, rather than a drug commonly used for spiking drinks in the chemsex scene. Mr. Locke was arrested a second time after officers were told of residents' concerns that drugs were being sold from a second flat in Newborough Street, Soho, on May 2020. Officers discovered that Mr. Locke was at the property and forced their way in after he refused them entry. Once inside, they arrested Mr. Locke for possession with intent to supply, after more drugs were found. Across both arrests, officers seized a bounty of drugs including 18 grams of cocaine, 235 doses of LSD, 296 MDMA pills, 241 packets of methamphetamine, 36 packets of ketamine, and 11 litres of GBL. Detective Constable Nigel Paquette, who led the investigation, said, "Mr. Locke was a prolific drug dealer who had no regard of the law. He was found to be dealing a wide range of drugs, and even had a notebook full of records of who he sold to and whether they had paid. Today's result was only possible thanks to the close cooperation between local communities and the police. When people tell us they are concerned, we will act, combining specialist intelligence gathering techniques with community policing to get the results that will benefit the community. The drugs trade is a blight on Londoners, bringing crime and violence to its neighbourhoods and ruining lives. As part of the new Met for London strategy, the Met will continue to tackle crimes that matter the most to communities and deliver on their behalf." teenager has been jailed for 22 years after a Met investigation into a fatal stabbing in Islington. Sanchez Tate, 18, of Tufnell Park Road, Islington, was sentenced at the Old Bailey on Thursday the 21st of November. He had been found guilty of the murder of Mohammed Abdi Noor on the 1st of October following a trial at the same court. The murder investigation was led by Detective Chief Inspector Larry Smith. DCI Smith said, "The dispute started as a verbal argument between Mr. Tate and Mohammed after Mohammed had found his motorbike been knocked over near his home, tragically to physical violence, and was further accelerated by the fact that Sanchez Tate was carrying a sword with a 43.5cm long blade and made a terrible choice to use it. My thoughts are with Mohammed's family and those who knew him, who have lost a dearly loved family member and friend. I am also mindful that there are no winners in this case, and Tate, who was 17 years old at the time, will have many years in prison to reflect on the callous stupidity of his actions. The investigation team would like to thank the witnesses to this shocking incident, who stepped in to try and stop it. They also alerted emergency services, assisted with first aid, made statements to the police, and gave crucial evidence at trial. Police were called at 7:30 on Monday the 11th of December 2023 to Tufnell Park Road, N7. Officers and London Ambulance Service attended and found 21-year-old Mohammed Abdi Noor with stab wounds. He was taken by ambulance to a hospital where, despite the best efforts of medical staff, he sadly died in the early hours of the 12th of December. Mohammed's family were informed and have been supported throughout the investigation and court proceedings. Sanchez Tate was arrested on the 11th of December at his home address, near to the murder scene, and Mohammed's home. Following the death of Mohammed Abdi Noor, he was charged with murder. A man who rammed a stolen car into a police officer following a high-speed chase in North London has been jailed. David Doyle, who was 19, of Brick Lane, Norfolk, was sentenced to 5.5 years imprisonment at Harrow Crown Court on Thursday the 14th of November, having previously pleaded guilty at the same court on the 1st of August. He was also disqualified from driving for 81 months. At around 6:30 PM on Friday the 17th of May, PC Richard Keel was on a marked motorcycle in Camden Street, where he spotted Mr. Doyle driving a stolen car at dangerous speeds. PC Keel started a pursuit, only for Mr. Doyle to reverse towards him multiple times at high speed, striking him hard on the third attempt and knocking him off his bike. Mr. Doyle then sped off, leaving PC Keel with significant injuries. Members of the public were thankfully on hand to help the officer before alerting London Ambulance Service. Officers launched an investigation the same day, locating the stolen vehicle 1 mile away from where the attack occurred. Officers then trawled through CCTV footage and forensic evidence before identifying Mr. Doyle as the main suspect. He was arrested on Thursday the 23rd of May before being charged with the following day with driving offences and causing bodily harm with intent. PC Keel, who is based on the Central North Command Unit, said, "Although I'm on a challenging journey to recovery, I'm pleased that Mr. Doyle has been brought to justice for the attack. This incident is a reminder of the dangers we face as we strive to keep communities and Londoners safe. I would like to thank the members of the public that helped me that day and my colleagues who have been extremely supportive during this difficult time." Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley said, "Every day, 18 of our officers are assaulted in the line of duty protecting the public. 2 are seriously injured each week. I am humbled by the selfless and brave commitment of the men and women of the Met who put their lives on the line to keep Londoners safe. That's exactly what PC Keel did, and I am pleased that we are able to bring his attacker swiftly to justice. I had the opportunity to thank PC Keel for his service, and I wish him a speedy recovery. I'd also like to thank those members of the public and the London Ambulance Service paramedics for the help they provided following the incident." Detectives from South London led a meticulous investigation into abuse suffered by 2 young girls, unknown by each other, by a taekwondo coach who targeted the children in their own home and during group classes. Following a trial at Inner London Crown Court on Thursday the 7th of November, Diego Solitaire, 44, of Studley Road, Stockwell, was sentenced to 9 years imprisonment for his crimes against children. The horrific nature of these crimes, which took place between 2018 and 2021, have left a profound impact on the victims, their families, and the wider community. The court heard heartbreaking testimonies which revealed the grooming, manipulation, and betrayal experienced by these young individuals who sought sport mentorship from someone in a trusted position. Their bravery in coming forward has been crucial in ensuring justice is served. Detective Constable Mel Jordan from the Met's Child Abuse Team, who led the investigation, said, "I want to acknowledge the bravery of the victim survivors, whose courage has been unwavering through this process, especially considering their young age. Coming forward is not only a tribute to their strength, but serves as a sign to any other victim that they will be listened to and supported." Mr. Solat used his position and trust of the victims' families to take advantage of young girls in both public classes and private settings, where they should have been at their safest. We understand that this case would have shaken the local and Taekwondo community. Safeguarding children is our top priority, and if you or someone you know has been groomed or abused, please come forward. You are not alone, and there are officers ready to support you. The first victim survivor came forward whilst Mr. Salat was employed by the family as a Taekwondo instructor. She reported serious assaults to the police in September 2021. Shortly after, Mr. Salat was arrested and interviewed by specialist Met detectives, who said the children did not want to do Taekwondo anymore and that they had made up the allegation so they can no longer have to do it. The second victim survivor bravely came forward to the police whilst the first investigation was still active. She reported to her school counsellor that Mr. Salat had touched her inappropriately. Mr. Salat was arrested for a second time on the 30th of May 2022 and interviewed by police, and said the victim had fabricated the assault allegation against him. In interviews with specially trained Met detectives, Mr. Salat stated he had never touched the victim inappropriately and that he is not interested romantically with children. The victims' families made a joint statement together. "We are eternally grateful to the officers who worked tirelessly to bring justice for our children. We would encourage anyone who is in a similar situation of being a victim, supporting a victim, or being a witness of abuse to come forward to the police." In a truly dark moment of our children's lives, Detective Constable Jordan's compassion, dedication, and relentless pursuit of the truth gave us a way forward. The abuse our children have experienced has left a wound that will never fully heal, but knowing that justice has been served and there are incredible officers protecting the safety of others brings us comfort. Constable Jordan did not only seek justice, created a platform for our children to have a voice and speak out against abuse. We thank wholeheartedly each and every member of the team and the lead investigator, Detective Constable Mel Jordan, for their work and professionalism throughout this ordeal. Children and young people are the most vulnerable in society, and the Met is committed to keeping them safe in person and online. Part of the new Met for London plan, our officers are working closely with third sector partners, including the Children's Society, to help young people, parents and carers spot the signs of abuse and predatory behaviour online and offline. A man has been convicted of murder after a teenager he assaulted died from his injuries following more than 6 years of nursing care. Tyrese O.C. Kofi, 25, of no fixed address, appeared at the Old Bailey on Friday the 1st of November, where he pleaded guilty to murder. On October the 14th, 2016, police were called by the London Ambulance Service just after 7 p.m. to reports that a young man had been stabbed at Triangle Place, SW4. Officers and the London Ambulance Service attended and found 17-year-old Jamal Boyce with stab wounds to the chest and leg. While the latter wound was superficial, the former had penetrated his heart and punctured his lung, which caused Jamal to collapse and go into cardiac arrest. Paramedics and a trauma team performed surgery on the roadside and managed to restart Jamal's heart before he was rushed to hospital. Sadly, the injury to his heart had deprived him of oxygen for a critical 14 minutes, which left Jamal in a permanent vegetative state and requiring round-the-clock nursing care. Mr. O.C. Kofi was convicted convicted of grievous bodily harm following a trial at the Old Bailey in 2018. He was found not guilty of attempted murder in May 2018 and he was jailed for 10 years. On Tuesday the 13th of February 2022, after 6.5 years of care, Jamal sadly died. A post-mortem examination held on the 16th of February 2022 gave a provisional cause of Jamal's death as penetrating injury to his chest. Homicide detectives from the Met Specialist Crime Command started murder proceedings against Mr. O.C. Kofi. Detective Inspector Andy Griffin of the Met Specialist Crime Command said, Jamal was a business studies student. He had no links to gangs and was described by those who knew him as a polite, contentious and shy young man. That he could be so cruelly snatched from his family is heartbreaking. Pleased that the guilty plea from the defendant has spared Jamal's family the agony of a second trial. I sincerely hope that today's pleas bring them a measure of satisfaction in knowing that the person responsible for the death of their son has been held to account. Mr. O.C. Kofi was remanded in custody to appear for sentencing at the same court on Friday the 6th of December. A drug dealer from Lewisham was rumbled after he accidentally sent a text advertising heroin to a police officer when he got one digit wrong in a phone number. Philip Poole, 25, from Markswell Close in Lewisham, was sentenced at Chichester Crown Court on the 14th of November to 3 years in prison. Surrey police first became aware of the drugs line operating in Redhill, Dorking, Leatherhead and Epsom back in March of this year. Officers had examined the phone messages of a buyer who they had arrested earlier that year. Messages advertising the sale of drugs including crack cocaine and heroin were also accidentally sent to the mobile number of a serving Surrey police officer who reported this to the proactive investigation team. Officers identified Paul as the line holder and he was successfully arrested outside his home. Upon searching him, officers uncovered £337 in cash, a wrap of crack cocaine, 3 wraps of heroin and a bag containing 2 grams of cannabis. A number of messages from users requesting to buy drugs were also found on Paul's phone. At court, Paul pleaded guilty to being concerned in the supply of crack cocaine, being concerned in the supply of heroin and possession of cannabis. Investigating officer PC Joseph Brown said, drug dealing can have a hugely disruptive effect on the local community, and dealers make their ill-gotten money from the misery of others. If you come to Surrey to deal drugs, we will pursue you and bring you to justice. A drug dealer has been jailed for possessing Class A drugs with intent to supply. Alejandro Zanelli, of no fixed address, was sentenced to 32 months in prison at the Old Bailey. On Thursday, August 15, 2024, a City of London police officer pulled over Mr. Zanelli's vehicle on Farringdon Street at around 6:30 p.m. due to suspicious behaviour. The targeted intercept and tactical AMPR team, Titan, conducted a search of the car and, with the help of a police dog, discovered drugs hidden in the sun visor. Approximately 20 sealed bags of cocaine were uncovered, and further searches revealed £360 cash stashed in the centre console. 2 mobile phones were also seized, with one displaying messages dealing. The 21-year-old was also found guilty of driving without insurance and without a licence. Chief Inspector Joe Cash of City of London Police stated, City of London police officers will proactively target offenders, and we will take action to disrupt and pursue those involved in the supply of Class A drugs on the street of London. This sentencing should send a message to those involved in drug dealing. You will be arrested, charged and sent to prison. Titan was established following a highly successful intelligence-led operation to track down vehicles known to be involved in criminality using the city's extensive camera network. The team carries out a blend of pre-planned and spontaneous tactical responses to high-harm offenders. They are focusing on drug dealers, phone thieves, money launderers, and those orchestrating modern slavery and human trafficking. A South London gang member behind a large-scale drug supply operation flooding South Wales with crack cocaine and heroin has been jailed. Kedar Meyer starts a 15-year, 4-month sentence after he was caught selling drugs to an organised crime group responsible for bringing Class A's to the Welsh region through a network of dealers and couriers. South Wales Police launched Operation Solidigo in response to drug distributions on their patch, focusing initially on the activities of Tuffenil Akhtar from Cardiff. In 2021, Mr. Akhtar met with 3 other defendants to hand over a kilo of cocaine, which was later seized by the police. In the days before, there were telephone calls between the defendants and the OCG members. Throughout September and October 2021, Mr. Akhtar called Mr. Meyer, a known drug supplier from London. On November the 22nd, Hasif Aslam, a drugs courier, drove to Mr. Meyer's home address area. On his return, he was stopped with 4.5 kilos of heroin. When police eventually got to Mr. Akhtar's house, they found £500 in cash, a money counting machine, scales with traces of drugs, and Cartier and Rolex watches. A total of 5.25 kilograms of heroin and 1.5 kilograms of cocaine were seized as part of Operation Solidigo. The total street value of the drugs recovered, which police say was just a snapshot of what the organised crime group were trading, is estimated to be between £157,000 and £219,000. Andrew Jones, KC, for the prosecution said, "This was a complex investigation involving experienced criminals with a knowledge of police tactics. However, the police have worked tirelessly to gather compelling evidence for their wrongdoing." Detective Inspector Andrew Gibbons of Tarion said, "Operation Solidigo is an excellent example of how determined police officers can utilise multiple resources and tactics to take down those who peddle drugs to the most vulnerable in our communities. This was a large-scale investigation, and I would like to thank all those who were involved in this outcome."